Hey there, welcome back. I want you to imagine this for a moment. What if I told you that you could have more hours in your day, at least in the way you feel about your day? I'm not talking about magic or a time turner from a Harry Potter movie. I'm talking about the art of managing time so that you can live a fuller, richer life. I know it sounds almost too good to be true, right? But stick with me because over the next little while, I'm going to share some insights and personal experiences that transform the way I handle my day-to-day, and I believe it might just do the same for you. I used to be that person who always felt like time was slipping through my fingers. My mornings would start with a mad dash to get ready, and before I knew it, I'd be scrambling to finish tasks that seemed to pile up like an avalanche. There was this constant pressure, like a storm cloud following me around, whispering that I wasn't doing enough. And honestly, it was exhausting. But then I stumbled upon a few simple shifts in my mindset and daily habits that completely changed my relationship with time. Now, I'm not saying I've become a superhero who controls every minute of the day, but I have learned how to use my time more intentionally and with less stress. And I want to share that journey with you. Let's start by talking about what time really means to us. You see, time isn't just a clock ticking away, it's the backdrop to all our experiences, our growth, and our relationships. Think about it. Every memory, every laugh, every moment of clarity happens within the frame of time. It's both our most valuable resource and the one thing we can never get back. That realization hit me hard at one point when I looked back on my week and wondered, where did all these days go? That's when I began to question how I was spending my time and whether those choices were leading me toward the life I truly wanted. One of the first things I did was to reframe my perspective on time management. Instead of seeing it as a strict regimen of scheduling every minute, like some kind of self-imposed prison, I began to view it as a way to give myself more freedom. It's a bit of a paradox. By planning and prioritizing, you actually create more space for spontaneity and creativity because you're not constantly reacting to the chaos around you. I realized that time management isn't about squeezing every drop of productivity out of the day, it's about aligning your actions with your priorities and values so that you're living intentionally. I remember a time when I would start my day with a long list of things I had to do, and that list felt like an insurmountable mountain. It was overwhelming, and I'd often end up feeling defeated before I even began. What helped me was breaking down that overwhelming mountain into smaller, more manageable hills. I started by asking myself, what is the one thing today that would make the biggest difference in my life? It wasn't about checking off 100 tasks, it was about focusing on what truly mattered. And surprisingly, once I honed in on that one thing, everything else started to fall into place. Another important part of my journey was learning to say no, something that, as many of us know, is incredibly hard to do. I used to think that saying no meant I was being selfish or that I wasn't up for a challenge. But I eventually discovered that every time I said yes to something that wasn't aligned with my priorities, I was indirectly saying no to something else that was. It's like you have this invisible jar, and every time you commit to something, you put a marble in it. Eventually, you run out of space for the things that really matter. So, I started practicing a more mindful approach to commitments. Instead of automatically agreeing, I would take a step back and ask myself if this was something that truly resonated with my current goals and energy levels. It wasn't easy at first, and there were plenty of awkward moments, but over time, it became liberating to set boundaries that honored my time. I also discovered that a big part of managing time effectively is managing our energy. I mean, think about it, even if you have hours in your day, if you're running on empty, you're not going to make the most of them. There was a period when I would power through my day fueled by coffee and a stubborn determination, only to crash in the afternoon. It became clear that instead of forcing myself to work through fatigue, I needed to listen to my body. That meant scheduling breaks, getting enough sleep, and even allowing myself to have days where I wasn't super productive, because those days allowed me to recharge. And honestly, embracing the ebb and flow of energy was one of the most humanizing parts of my journey with time management. Now let's talk about distractions. Oh boy, distractions, they're like little time thieves that sneak into your day when you're not looking. I used to believe I could multitask and handle everything at once, but I soon learned that trying to do too many things at once only left me feeling scattered and less accomplished overall. Instead, I began focusing on one task at a time. There's something incredibly powerful about giving your full attention to one thing, whether it's a project, a conversation, or even just enjoying a quiet cup of coffee. It's like tuning into the moment fully, and that clarity can actually boost your efficiency and creativity. I've also come to appreciate the importance of planning ahead. Now, I'm not a big fan of over-planning every minute, but having a rough idea of what I want to achieve in the day gives me a sense of direction. I like to think of it as a gentle roadmap rather than a rigid schedule. It gives me the flexibility to adapt when unexpected opportunities or challenges arise. Some days things go exactly as planned, and on others I have to pivot, and that's perfectly okay. The key is to have a vision for your day without tying yourself down to every little detail. What I love most about all of this is that it's not about being perfect. It's about making choices that are right for you, even if they don't always work out perfectly. I've had days when I've slipped up, days when I felt like I lost control, and days when I was proud of every small victory. And that's the beauty of it. Each day is a new chance to try again, to adjust, and to learn more about what helps me thrive. Over time, I began to see that time management is really just self-care. By taking charge of how I spend my time, I'm also taking care of my mental and emotional well-being. I remember one particular day when everything seemed to be falling apart. I had back-to-back meetings, unexpected errands, and a personal project that was demanding my attention. It felt like I was drowning in a sea of responsibilities, and I was so stressed that I couldn't see a way out. Instead of letting the day dictate my mood, I took a deep breath and reminded myself that I had the power to steer my day, even if just a little bit. I stepped back, prioritized what truly needed to be done, and allowed myself to let go of the rest. That moment was a turning point for me. It was a reminder that sometimes, managing your time means giving yourself permission to step back and simply be. As we wrap up this little chat about time management, I want you to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all solution here. What works for me might not work for you, and that's perfectly okay. The journey to mastering time management is deeply personal. It's about experimenting, failing, learning, and eventually finding a rhythm that makes you feel balanced and fulfilled. And hey, if you ever feel overwhelmed, just know that you're not alone. We're all in this together, trying our best to navigate the beautiful chaos of life. So, if you're ready to reclaim your time and, with it, a bit more peace and purpose in your day, I encourage you to try out one or two of these ideas. Start small, be gentle with yourself, and celebrate every little win along the way. Remember, it's not about turning every minute into a masterpiece. It's about living intentionally and giving yourself the space to grow. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today and diving into this conversation about time management. I hope some of these thoughts resonate with you and inspire you to take a little extra care of yourself in the busy world we live in. Until next time, take it easy, be kind to yourself, and remember, you've got this.